Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to episode 134 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. My name is Byron. I'm here with my good buddy, Gary. Gary, what's happening, my friend?
Well, you know, it's been a great day. We got to roll this morning, and that's what counts. We had some chokes and jokes going on.
Yes, we did. You get a group of people that grapple for such a long time together, there's always going to be some good chokes and jokes. I'm excited this episode, Gary. We have Jess Fraser on our show this week for the interview. She is a brown belt competitor and also just a member of the community. She's head of the Australian Girls in Gi, which is similar to the Girls in Gis that we have here in the United States. She's really organizing women getting together and doing jiu-jitsu, sometimes for the first time or sometimes just as a community, and helping that social bond grow and develop. She's not just doing that.
She's competed 3 times in the ADCC and medaled twice. She's also won the silver in the world. So, you know, a great competitor, very, very skilled. And like Byron said, she's the founder of the Australian Girls in Gis, which, just introduces jiu-jitsu. It's easier, I guess, if you know there's going to be a big group of women to come on in and basically fall in love with the sport.
I'll put a link in the show notes to the Australian Girls in Gi Facebook page. You can see the big, crazy pictures that they all take together, and it's just amazing the types of people that they bring to check out the sport.
Yep. So basically we have that, and as our usual show, we have our quote of the week, we have our interview or our article of the week, but we always got to talk about Byron's audiobook. It's called Your First Year in BJJ. It's only $11.99. It's 2.5 hours of content. Byron talking to you, guiding you through your first year of jiu-jitsu, which we all know is the tough year. Basically everything from how to choose the right school, which, is really important, to, how to prepare for your first tournament, or if you are going to do a tournament in that first year. So, a lot of great information. Definitely check it out. We'll put a link to it on the show notes. But like I said, it's only $11.99 for 2.5 hours of content. So check it out from our good friend and co-host, and actually main host, Byron Jabara.
Yep, it helps support the show, and we'll have another way towards the end of the show talking about how you could support us. But this has been a lot of help, and I really hope it's helped people out during their first year, which is the main priority behind that audiobook. So,
and the neat thing about it is we've been getting a ton of emails back on that and talking about it. And actually, I'm looking in our inbox, and here's one right now. And I'll read it word for word. Byron's audiobook has been so awesome. I mean, it's done everything for me. I have never seen so much great content from such a great person. He is probably the best, it says son, but then it's crossed out, person that I've ever met. He is great. Sincerely, Byron's mom. There
we go. She keeps just emailing Gary directly, and that's really odd of her to do that, but I appreciate that. And
and plus she gets on the show.
Yeah, that every time. If she wants to email me, I might filter out the email, but by emailing Gary, he'll bring it on every time.
Yep.
Gary,
I'll always put it out there.
Gary always brings it.
Yep.
Speaking of always bringing it, we will always bring it to your inbox if you would like that to happen. Go to our website and or our Facebook page. Put your name and your email address. Every week, we'll email you all the show notes and a link to the MP3 download for your convenience, and that way you'll never miss a show. A simple way to keep in contact with us. And of course, if you want to contact us, bjjbrick@gmail.com is a great way to do that, my friends.
Yep, and speaking of always bringing it, there was a guy a long time ago who did a lot of stuff to make the world a better place. The guy's name is Albert Einstein, and I don't think it's a jiu-jitsu guy, but he's going to bring us the quote this week.
Gary, would you go ahead and play that clip?
I think we should play that. Do we have a clip from Einstein?
You got the clip, Gary. Go ahead and play it.
Yep. Yes, this is Albert Einstein, and I would like to say my quote. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing it is stupid. And that's from me, Albert Einstein.
Thanks, Albert. And you sound a lot like Gary mid-quote. You kind of just sound a little differently than at the beginning.
Byron,
and end of it.
everybody knows that's not Albert Einstein.
Oh.
It could be Albert Einstein, the two-stripe purple belt.
Yeah.
From Cleveland.
Okay. Well, who knows who we got there? I know you had the audio thing recorded and ready to go. So.
Yep. But once again, everyone is a genius. But if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing it is stupid.
Yeah.
That's deep. Yeah.
That's deep.
Fish don't
like
climb
the ocean.
trees.
Deep like the ocean, Gary. No, really what it is, people have things they're good at and people have things that they're not good at. And if you just focus on what you're not good at and like maybe you're just not meant to be that great at something, it's going to be like a fish trying to climb a tree. It's just not going to happen. You know, really you could probably become decent at it, better than a fish could climb a tree. But to be great at something, some people are just naturally enjoy the things that they're great at, and it seems like dude, that guy's amazing at jiu-jitsu. Yeah, but he might suck at cooking, or he might be a terrible driver. You know, like there's give and take out of the different categories. And, you know, so you might be feeling down today about your jiu-jitsu, but, you know, hey, you got something else going on in a different category probably, and really you can improve your jiu-jitsu, but the odds that you could become that, you know, that world-class person if you I don't know, I hate to be discouraging, but let me retry that content, Gary.
Yeah, well,
I lost
there's only going to be a few bucheches. It's not like everybody can get to that level.
Yeah, that's a good way to say that, Gary. Yeah. I could train, I can quit my job and train all the time. It's not going to happen. I'm firmly grounded in reality that he would destroy me within seconds, even if I, you know, dedicated full time to training. That's me trying to climb that tree as a fish.
Like I said before, I mean, we're no bucheches. We're no Ryan Hall, and we'll probably never be. It's not that I'm not going to try to be a Ryan Hall, but it's probably not going to happen. I can tell you it's not going to happen.
Yeah, you're not going to like the fish judging the fish as being a terrible climber. I'm not judging my ability. I'm not going to say I'm a terrible grappler or Gary's a terrible grappler. Or even if, you know,
you said I'm a terrible grappler?
I've said that many times, but not to your face directly, Gary, which is kind of awkward now. But like a blue belt, not all blue belts are the same. Some blue belts are the blue belt version of themselves. And it may be hard for them to hang with other blue belts, but it's you know, after that certain amount of time of training, that's as good as they're going to be as a blue belt. There you go, there's your blue belt. And it still might be tough for some reasons, you know, that might be outside of the control of how good they can actually become at jiu-jitsu. But as long as that they're being the best possible, you know, tree climbing fish, if that's what they want to do. I feel like I'm losing this with Gary, but
yeah, no, but you keep trying. Like as humans, we're not going to be able to fly without an airplane or a helicopter. We're not going to be able to stand up on a hill and flap our arms like a fish cannot climb a tree. It's just not possible. But, you know, let's say I have short legs and somebody tells me I'm not going to be a guard player. I you know, short, stubby legs that aren't very flexible. Probably right off the bat I'm not going to be a very good guard player, but it doesn't say that I can't become okay at it or pretty decent. I'm going to work on my flexibility. I'm going to work on my hip movement. I'm going to, you know, work on my grips. I'm going to become a decent guard player. So, you know, it's like keep trying to do stuff that's possible, but there are some limitations that, you know, we can't do. I mean, I'm never going to be able to swim underwater for 5 minutes straight. It's just we're not, nature didn't build us to swim underwater for 5 minutes straight.
Gary,
without an oxygen tank.
I think you kind of saved this quote here because this quote has been kicking my butt, you know, trying to explain what's in my head. And you just said, if I've got short, stubby legs, I'm probably not going to be able to play certain types of guards maybe or something like that. But you work with what you got. You know, that doesn't mean – so this category of jiu-jitsu might be tough for you. It might be tough for you to land triangles a lot because if you have short legs. But doesn't mean you can't be good at jiu-jitsu. You have to find your game in there and do what you do well. And so I think we're kind of. I was looking at jiu-jitsu as a whole, like either you're good at it or not good at it. It's really parts of jiu-jitsu, and find which parts of it your body is going to fit well, and go for that.
Yep, I like what Byron says there. You know, I may have short legs, and I might not be the greatest at doing triangles, let's say. But what I can do is I can direct them into another position.
Okay.
Somewhere where I'm strong at.
There we go. I like that, Gary. And the music is telling us that it's time to move on from our friend. Thank you, Albert, for the
You're
quote
welcome,
there.
Byron and Gary. Gary is actually my favorite. Hey, thanks, Albert. We appreciate that.
Yep,
I appreciate that.
You got some stuff in your beard there, Albert, or mustache. But
I think it's blood from you when you're rolling.
Bloody nose, see, my friend. But Gary mentioned a little bit about directing somebody from a certain spot in jiu-jitsu towards the spot that you want to be at. And that kind of just segues nicely into our article of the week. We have an article from structureofgrace.wordpress.com, Keyboard Sith Lord. So this article is called Principal Forcing Positions, a.k.a. Directing. And it's a very interesting way to think of things because he had, at the beginning of this article, he has a mind change of like, I remember thinking this, and now I've learned that may not be true.
And I mean, that's happened, think about how many times you've done jiu-jitsu, and mind changes happen all the time, and it's you got to keep an open mind. But sorry for hijacking there, Byron.
No, that's perfect, and you can see that in his writing. The idea of forcing a position, used to be like a bad thing for him. Like, I don't want to force it. I want to just move with it and see where it goes. But there are times when it's okay to do that, and he kind of gets in that. The first one, if you have an injury. Is that right? Gary's an injury expert.
I actually injured myself this morning. Yes, I'm an injury expert. And I mean, you think about it this morning. First of all, I couldn't work my takedown game, so I had to pull guard right off the bat, which isn't really ideal for me. But then, because my left leg was injured, that's my strong hook. So I like to play half guard, and I like to use that hook and look for sweeps or elevate for leg locks, and I couldn't do that either. So I had to try some other stuff. So sometimes when you have an injury, you can't play your game. I'm limited into my normal game, and I got to go somewhere else.
Gary, I would say that most of your game you've discovered it from limiting yourself. It seems like the things you do.
I'm always injured.
Because you're working around things. So I think your leg will be healed up by next week, maybe 2 weeks. But let's say if your leg was injured like this for the better part of the next year, you would still continue to grapple. I know you would, and your game would change.
Yeah,
and you would be okay with it.
Yep. I tell you, one of the best things that happened to me is when I tore my rotator cuff. For like a whole year, I could not raise my arm, and I almost kind of really grappled one-handed for a long time. But I tell you, I developed a really strong underhook, and I got very good at keeping my elbows really close to my side. And people could say, boy, that was a tough year. I probably got tapped a little bit more than normal because I didn't have everything. I look at it the opposite. I learned a lot of good skills that year because I couldn't use everything that I normally do. And it just makes me more well-rounded. Yeah,
so the idea that you could be forcing a position, it would be that you're going to force somebody away from something at times. You're going to not get yourself a situation where your arm is lifted too high, to where it's painful for you, or you're just kind of directing where you are, or sometimes you're directing where you're not. And I think that's an idea that's not really understood a lot of times. But like one of the things that I've had a habit of trying to avoid is somebody's close guard, because it is tough. It slows me down. I just heard to direct the grappling session away from the close guard if I feel like they're trying to go there, by keeping maybe my elbow close to my knee as I'm standing and try to hide my midsection. But not do from injury, just from I like to keep things moving and keep things going, and I don't want to have somebody triangulating me constantly from the close guard. I don't know, Gary, but
yeah, and that's a good point. It's like you're not just using it because you're injured. It works when you're injured, but let's say you're going against a guy, like you said, with a great close guard. I'm going to try everything possible to direct so we never get to that close guard position. I'm going to try to force you into another position, but I just want to stay out of that close guard.
Yeah, it's a fun article. It brings up the idea that forcing at some things is not necessarily a bad thing all the time. Now, obviously it can be. If you don't want to do anything but but an easy one would be just pull guard every time and never train to be on top. That's a fine competition strategy, is I'm going to pull guard. But you should experience the top game sometimes just to help you out. For on the bottom, it does help you out on the bottom. Or there could be a chance that you'll have to actually pass someone's guard, and you'll have a white belt guard pass, and you'll have a black belt style guard, because you've neglected that part of your game. So by forcing constant into your guard, man, I can't even talk. By forcing somebody constantly into your guard, that could be a good thing, and it could also be a bad thing. So just kind of take an evaluation of what you're forcing in your game, and think about if it's good or if it's bad, and try to make some decisions from there.
Yeah, you were talking about passing guard or whatever, but I kind of got a little half guard game where I'm a lot better on one side than I am on the other, and most people are right-handed, so they'll go one way, and it's always kind of worked into my game. But Byron, you were the one guy who then started forcing it the other way. And, I could look at it that, oh, darn, Byron's passing my guard and getting me in side control, and I'm in bad shape. But I look at it it's great that he's doing that. I mean, in the short term, I'm getting smashed and I'm getting beat. But in the long term, I'm getting better at that side. So, I'm kind of glad he found it, and it just made my game even that much stronger.
Yeah, and for that credit, Gary, it's hard for me to start to pass your guard the wrong way for you, because you just have things set up that way. Yeah. Yep. So I know what you're talking about, and it's the only way I can pass your guard.
That's a perfect example of this article, by Jeff. There, it's the way you've worked to pass my guard.
Yeah, and it just because I can't pass it the other way typically, Gary, but we'll keep that a secret, my friend.
Maybe you'll forget about it, hopefully.
But we'll put a link to the article in the website there on the show notes for you guys. All right, with that article wrapped up nice and tight in its own gi, getting strangled, we could move on.
Is that a Fuji Sakai gi?
Yes, it is, Gary. Yes, it is. And Gary's talking about this gi I've been wearing for a while, and put up a review on the website there about it, and I like it, Gary. It's been a good gi for me there.
So everybody check out the video of Byron reviewing the Fuji Sakai gi.
All right. Well, with that said, and all wrapped up in that Sakai gi, we'll go ahead and roll the interview with Jess Fraser. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
When he was troubled with a slow Wi-Fi connection, he threatened to disqualify the service provider. After that, his high-speed connection was restored. He then streamed the Worlds from the comfort of Chuck Norris's living room. Chuck never knew that he was there, but he did enjoy a faster internet connection. When he is stuck in a traffic jam, he manages to keep rolling, just very slow. This is what he considers to be his slow roll time.
I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BJJ Brick podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring Jess Fraser to the BJJ Brick podcast. Jess, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for jumping on here with me. You're a busy person. you got a lot going on. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Jess Fraser. I'm from Australia. I am based in Melbourne, and I'm a brown belt. I'm probably most commonly known for my role as the head of Australian Girls in Gi. So that's a huge organisation, countrywide organisation, supporting all the women that are training in Australia. Mm.
And how did you get into that role?
I got into that role because I created it. I started training in 2010, and there wasn't too many females at my gym, which is generally the case for most gyms, I guess. And I met a woman named Kate Wilson at a competition at the ADCC trials, actually. So I met Kate, out on the mats, and it was one of those experiences where I won the match, but I knew she was better than me, and I desperately wanted to train with her. So at the time, we were both at gyms that didn't really support cross-training, and I guess that's where I started Australian Girls in Gi. I bought a bunch of mats, and she worked in the city, and I was teaching yoga at the time, so I bought a bunch of mats and I stored them on the roof of a building, and once a week I'd drag those mats down into my yoga space and we'd roll. And so that's kind of where it started. After a couple of weeks, we invited a couple of other girls, and those girls have gone on to be, world champs and Pan Am champs. All of us have, really. So all of those girls that were training back in the day are now very successful brown belts. That's Livia Glakowska, Sunny Munn, and myself and Kate, a couple of others. So that's where it started.
And how big is this group of girls in gis in Australia?
Currently, we have just over 1,000 active members, and they are all women and based in Australia. So, the members are based on a closed online group and forum, and all of those women are very definitely, they're screened first before they join part of the group. So I do know where all of them train, and they are all active. So, pretty big group at the moment.
And so what do they get by being part of this group?
Well, basically they get a lot of online support, and that's, because we're 1,000 strong, we can support each other, So, the online group is really a forum for questions and peer review and support and sharing ideas and interests and experiences. And we're in contact daily. There's a lot of activity in that forum. And we also run events. So Australian Girls in Gi tries to run around about 8 events a year. That's kind of countrywide. So we've been doing competitions for a while now. We're doing all-female competitions. So I think we're up to our 4th or 5th year of doing that. And sometimes they're in Sydney, sometimes they're in Melbourne. We're about to release, we've done some in Perth as well. We're about to release Brisbane as well. So there's competitions all over the place. But the biggest event that we do is the summer camp. So our summer is December, January, February, and right in the middle of summer, I run an annual camp that's massive, really huge. I think it's probably the biggest one of its kind in the world. There's the last one that I did in January just gone had 135 female attendees countrywide. So people are coming from all over Australia, and as we all know, Australia is vast. The amount of travel that these women do to come and train for the camp is amazing. So that's kind of what Australian Girls in Gi provides. But more than anything, we provide a place where girls can really get that kind of camaraderie and family that just comes due to numbers that guys have, that experience of, locker room conversation and the bonding over beers or meals or whatever after training doesn't happen for all the girls, but they sort of get that experience with chatting to everybody online and making other female friends online. So, that's what we do.
Oh, cool. Tell me, I want to learn a little bit more about you. Tell me a little bit about your competition history.
So there's a lot. I've done a lot. I started competing about 10 months into my journey and did quite well from the get-go. I guess I came from a Krav Maga background, so I was a Krav Maga instructor, and so I guess that my will was a little bit different than a beginner, like a straight-out beginner for jiu-jitsu competition. So I started out as a top game player, and I was very aggressive, lots of big takedowns and kind of pressure passing and that sort of stuff. And it really worked well for me. I think maybe my timing was good, in that the girls were learning guards at the same time as I was learning passing, and so I was kind of known for being the top game player in Oz for a while there. So I think less than a year into my jiu-jitsu journey, I'd already competed and come second at the ADCC trials and competed at Abu Dhabi trials and done pretty well, but hadn't done as well as I wanted to. And then the next year it really took off for me. So, at Blue, I won Abu Dhabi trials, and then I won again, Abu Dhabi trials twice with the purple, round, black div. So I've been to Abu Dhabi 3 times to rep for Oz, and I did pretty well at the Worlds a couple of times. Just generally done all right. Most recently won a couple of belts at the Naga Advanced in Vegas, and yeah, so just kind of constantly competing as much as I can, as much as my belt's been let me be able to, Sometimes you turn up to comps and there's no one there to compete against. So if I get fights, I do them, and I do pretty well. And that's been, all over the world, really. Mm.
Has your experience with the Krav Maga and that training beforehand helped you at all?
I guess it does on some levels, and it does. It works for you in some ways and against you in other ways. As far as technique goes, it's pretty detrimental. I gather my coaches felt when I was starting out that we had to get me a little less head focused and a little less kind of, grabby and stubborn, I guess. And that was a big transition to soften up and to become aware of the other person in the role. I also really struggled with jiu-jitsu conceptually, moving from Krav Maga to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It just, obviously self-defense is its primary function is to get you from point A to point B sort of in a relatively healthy state. And Jiu-Jitsu is such a different goal, it's a puzzle and it's an exchange, and it's a conversation, whereas Krav Maga is really very brutal. It's designed to be like kind of supreme violence, you meet force with force, and you try to get out of there as soon as possible. So a big leap for me was that jiu-jitsu was done in silence, and Krav Maga really isn't. We would vocalize what we needed help with. We'd vocalize about a weapon if it was in play. We'd vocalize, what we wanted out of the situation, whether you're saying no or don't touch me or things like that, And so to move from a really vocal, very aggressive state to this playful exchange of ideas is a really hard one. It was a really hard one for me, but as far as things that it benefited me moving from Krav Maga to Jiu-Jitsu is Krav Maga is designed to be learnt very quickly and easily retained and easily done, practiced really, really easily. It's very, very simple stuff. It's very violent and it's very aggressive, but it's very simple stuff, and I think that in that way, learning Krav Maga gave me a window into just learning a sport, learning a martial art, and learning a discipline. So I guess kind of like, your second language is the hardest to learn, and then the next one shouldn't be as hard. It's about learning a process, and I think that Krav Maga really sort of sped up that process for me, just in how I learn. Like when I came to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I didn't have to discover how I learnt or how I needed to drill or how I needed to get the information into me. I'd already learnt that through Krav Maga, and that process is much, much faster in Krav Maga than it is in Jiu-Jitsu, just purely because Krav Maga is much more simplified than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mm.
So, running the Australian Girls and Geese and competing are two things that to me look like they're similar, but they are a lot different because you can't just focus on what you're doing all the time. You're trying to promote something and connect with people who, not just for training purposes. Is it helping you with your training, or is it just a rewarding thing that you're doing, or why so motivated to do this Australian Girls and Geese? You're right. It is difficult to do both, and they aren't the same thing. So one is really community focused and focused outwardly. My work with Australian Girls and Geese is like pure sacrifice. Like it's all about giving, and it's all about giving back to the community and supporting women that maybe didn't have the same opportunities as I did, and things like that. So, or creating more opportunities for them even. And as far as competition goes, it's really
self-focused, like sure you're in a team, but it is pretty selfish in a positive way. Like it is really about investing in yourself and wanting the best out of yourself and making your training plans and sort of putting everything else aside if you want to go international, like if you want to go top level, it starts to be pretty blinkers on and single point of focus. And those two things don't necessarily blend very well. But I also, for me, with this community, for what it's given me and how much it's changed me and how much of a positive impact it's had on my life, I feel like I owe the sport a lot too, And so for me, that's where I'm trying to find balance, even though like putting both of those things together is totally exhausting. It really is. It's about balance for me and about giving back as much as I receive, like when I get like super self-involved and start focusing on my own training and my own competition career, I'm really asking a lot of people to support me to do that. It's not something I can do alone. I do need support, even though it is all my focus and my drive. I simply can't do it without my team or a beautiful training facility or, other people that are willing to put their bodies on the line for me to like try to tear through them, like it can't be done alone. And I feel like to balance the world properly, I have to give back as much as is given to me. And I guess that's the drive of Australian Girls in Gi, even though from time to time it is really hard, like that camp in Australia that I run in January, it wipes me out. I'm often like pretty run down and sick after that, and I'm very distracted in the lead up to it. And the hard thing about that is that hits, 2 weeks before the Abu Dhabi trials in Australia. So often I'm going to the trials entirely exhausted and just having to sort of suck it up and go on, because the Australian, the Australian comp season is a little out of whack with the American one. And so sometimes the timing's bad, but, it hasn't affected either group negatively, like either my training or the community group of Australian Girls in Gi negatively yet. And so, until I completely run out of steam, I'll try to keep balancing the two. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Where do you see the Australian Girls in Gis maybe in a couple of years or so?
What I hope to do, and I've talked about it a lot, and the girls listening will know who I'm talking about when I say this. And basically, I want to branch out, and I'd really like to have helpers more involved across the country. It's a lot of work with just me. I've definitely got Hope Douglas, who is in Sydney, and she's a brown belt training out of my BJJ. She's epic. She's really, really cool, and she's really helping me out. She started to do some events for Australian Girls in Gi, so it's not just me. And I know there's definitely a group of girls in Perth that are looking to do the same thing, and Queensland and Queenie up in Darwin is looking to be organising all the AGIG stuff. So I'm starting to branch out and really trust people with my baby, because they have the same energy and excitement about it and see its worth. So, yeah, I guess delegating some tasks would be awesome. I don't really want Australian Girls in Gi to back off in any way. I think that it's a really important group for the Australian women, and for most of these women now, which is it blows my mind, but for most of these women, it's just it's a standard that we have. They couldn't imagine their sport without this help and this support and this organisation, which is like something that I never had, but I love their experience, and I really wouldn't want that to change. So whether I stay in the sport for another 5-10 years, I don't know. Like, anything could happen, but definitely I want Australian Girls in Gi to stick around and be something that's really just known. It's just, I want it to be as established as the Australian Federation of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, yeah. I would love to see, Canadian Girls in Gi, and that may well happen. I'd love to go international, in the places that the girls groups aren't popping up yet. I'd love to try and help them set it up too.
Well, that's cool, and you've got you're busy, and you've got a lot of work cut out for you.
Yeah.
So That's exciting to see what you're doing with your future goals for that. I'm trying to kind of get an idea of the makeup of this group. So there are competitors, obviously. There are people who just practice jiu-jitsu, and then there's people who are interested in it, and they go to the events, but they don't actually train a lot outside of the events because maybe it's a little bit more than they want to do right now or something like that. Do you know the makeup of the Australian girls and geese, kind of what those numbers would be, or any idea of a guess?
Well, I would estimate that about 10% of the girls are competitors, a lot like the men, like any mat that I go on, there's like, I mean, I really think that the breakdown is pretty similar. It's just that we've got like a much bigger number of women under one umbrella, like they're all in different gyms, of course, and so we're a unique group in that way. But I would say, the breakdown starts to be pretty similar with like if you looked at the guys in any one gym as an overall, like maybe 10% competitors, lots that talk about it, not so many that do it, and then people that are just like, no, I've got no interest, and that's cool too, like we've got quite a few Australian girls and gi that don't actually even train, which sounds odd, but they're totally us, like they live a lifestyle that's very similar to like the BJJ lifestyle. They love the community, they love the people. They're the kind of women that are like, oh yeah, no, I've run 5 comps or run a table at all these different comps, but they don't roll, and that's cool too, like we don't exclude people or expect people to hit a certain level or anything like that, like intermittent sort of participation is just as cool as twice a day, 6 days a week. It's more about the community than the sport often, even though the sport is sort of how we met, So, yeah, there's competitors, but it's certainly not the focus of the group. It used to be, I think, more when I was more focused on competition, like as I was coming up and like super competitive, super like comparison kind of focused blue belt, I think Australian Girls and Gi was flavoured by my energy with that, and we used to be much more kind of competitor focused, but now we're really not. Like as I stop seeing that that's the only part of as I kind of moved from seeing that was the only focus in jiu-jitsu into like kind of a broader vision for jiu-jitsu, the groups really moved in that way also. So I think that we're much more inclusive now as a group. Yeah.
Jess, what do you say to a girl who has never tried jiu-jitsu and she's interested in trying it, maybe in coming to one of these big events to see what it's like? What would you say to her to kind of get her motivated just to try it out?
I would speak to her in the same way that I needed to hear it, and it's like you get to play. You really get to play. You get to fully understand how your body can and can't move, and you can learn so much about yourself and other people in this kind of crazy, ridiculous situation. It really is. It's hilarious. Like, it is really, really fun, and you'll meet incredible people, and it's just worth a try. Like, if you hate it, don't worry about it. Like, you don't have to do it, but you might as well give it a shot because it'll be unlike anything you've ever done in your life before. And like all the parts of the fun of, like, when you fight and wrestle with your nieces and nephews or kids in the afternoon, it's exactly like that. It brings back the play into your life, and it's worth a shot, and also you'll get damn fit, which is kind of crazy. Like, it's like you get accidentally fit while you're focusing on having fun. Yeah, it's nice to count something so fun as a workout. It's thinking about exercise, most people, they get through it, they have to force themselves to do it, but we're so lucky with jiu-jitsu that we go in, we train, and we have a good time, and we happen to get a good workout while we're doing it as well. So it's kind of a win-win without having the stress. It's totally the best, Like, I've been injured lately, and so I have to go back to actually doing cardio to maintain my fitness for when I hit the mats again, and lifting and stuff. And though I love lifting, I really hate cardio. Like, it's hard. Like, I have to really convince myself to leave the house to do it, Like, and when I'm there and I'm like, I'm in I'm in Toronto at the moment, so it's been really cold, and so I've been doing cardio indoors on machines, and it drives me crazy. Like, I'm on this machine for an hour, and I just, I think about all the years that I did fitness like that, and how much time I wasted, because I just think I could have been learning a skill at the same time as getting fit, Like, it's just, I love jiu-jitsu in that way. Like, if I could roll all day, every day, I would. It's like you just run out of energy, you can't keep going like that.
Yeah.
Whereas I would not stay on a treadmill all day, every day if I could. That would just be actual horror.
Yeah, that some people can, I guess, but that'd be very difficult. And like you said, you're learning a skill and getting exercise. You're having fun and in exercise. So those are
it's best.
That's great. You mentioned a little bit ago that you competed against somebody that was better than you, but you beat her. How do you do that? What's the key to that?
I think that for a long time I was essentially just shutting people's games down, and I still do that, but I have a game to play if they move on to a different place now, Like, so for a long time, my jiu-jitsu was really focused about just don't let that person do that to you. I don't know what they're trying to do, but just don't let them do that to you, And I guess that came from my Krav Maga background, is like not not accepting what someone was trying to do to me unless I was willing to give that movement or that decision. Unless it was under my volition, I really wouldn't allow something to happen to me, Like, and I guess self-defense works on all levels of understanding that. So when I moved to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there was girls that were much, much better than me that I was able to manage myself with, because I just wouldn't allow them to put me into dangerous spots. And sometimes then you can take advantage of that. So I guess no-gi was a little easier for me to manage that. Definitely ADCC trials, you think about like how the rule structure is with points and stuff. If I just like disengaged a fair bit, which sort of sucks, but like if I could disengage for long enough and work a takedown and then keep safe, I really could, end up winning the game, not so much the technique, if that makes sense. Yeah, definitely I could keep safe when I needed to and not open up my game as much. And I guess the girls that were better than me, that I was beating at the time, they had more game to play in more places and they were much more well-rounded. But if I just didn't let them take me out of my comfort zone, I was able to win matches.
Wow, that's. I think you're right. Like maybe at the little bit lower levels that you could really throw somebody off, and now that you're at a more elite level, you need to have your own game to implement. It's still great to shut somebody else kind of down and keep them out of their game, but it's important to have something that you want to do as well.
Oh yeah, and it's like I felt it recently. I got the like total honor of rolling no-gi with Valentina. I can't say her last name. Anyway, she's a UFC fighter. She's amazing. But I got to roll with her a fair bit in Bali, and I really faced that experience of like I've got this huge brown belt game, and like I've got so much going on, and like lots of people tell you you're doing so well, and you get all these great feedback situations with like winning golds and titles and stuff, and then you roll with someone like Valentina and she just shut me down. There's just no way. She just would refuse to play the BJJ game, like she's a UFC fighter, like she's a top level athlete, like epic, world champion with her kickboxing, but she just would not play the game with me, and so this was the same experience. So like I was trying all like moving from one guard to another guard, and she just wouldn't play, and she just wouldn't advance, like so for her, of course she's going to stay in my guard, and in her world she'd just be punching me in the face. But for me to try and get her to open up and to move forward and to put herself at risk was an absolute nightmare. So I had to open up my game to engage, and it always put me at risk because she'd take advantage, So that experience happened between us two, and it's such a frustrating thing to fight someone that just will not fight you. And so, like anything can happen in that moment, I guess.
Wow. What event was that at?
What's that?
What event was this at?
It wasn't an event. Valentina trains out of Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand, and I've been training out of Bali MMA under Justin Seidel, and so I've been training there, and she came past for a visit, and it's just Island of the Gods, like amazing people drop by, she's my size, and she's incredible, so feeling very blessed to spend some time there. But that gym itself is incredible.
Just good training there. That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
So we talked a little bit about the Australian girls and gis, the goals you have. What goals do you have for yourself for competition, maybe for the next couple of years?
For the next couple of years, like, I guess, being a brown belt, there's pretty obvious goals that are coming up relatively soon. For me, I really want to honor the end of my brown belt, like it's the last colored belt you get to have, and I want to finish it, and I want to, I want to do a bunch of competitions internationally that kind of make me feel like I got everything done that I wanted to get done. And I had sort of planned to, like, obviously I'm in Toronto at the moment, I'm Australian. I had planned this year, this whole season for getting that done. But it looks like I might have put myself out with a bit of a shoulder injury. So I might have to do this same plan again next year. We'll find out from the doctors relatively soon. But things like Pan Am's, Worlds, Abu Dhabi, there's a bunch of stuff that I want to do before black, So that's that goal for this belt, and then who knows? Who knows what happens with black belt? I guess move into coaching a little bit more would be a goal. That's kind of ballpark personal goals at the moment. But like I said, injury throws you off the path sometimes, and we'll just have to wait and see.
So you mentioned you're in Toronto. What are you doing there, and where are you going to go next?
So I'm here because of the injury. I was in America, so like my journey so far has been Australia to Bali. I've been training out of Bali, like I said, for a while at Bali MMA, and then I went to Hawaii and trained there at a couple of great gyms, and then I went from Hawaii to Vegas, and Vegas I was training with Sophia Drysdale, of course. She's Australia's first female black belt, so there's a big strong connection for lineage for Australian women to stop by and see Soph. She runs camps out of Vegas and stuff, so that's pretty fun. But while we were training, I hurt myself, so and that was in prep for Pan Am's. So I hurt myself a couple of weeks before Pans and had to just basically sit it out, and I'm just waiting to get better, really. So I was hanging out in Vegas, and that was cool, but my family's here in Canada, so I've got family all through Ontario, and just decided to come hang out with these guys while I can't roll, and see everyone catch up. And as soon as I'm back on my feet, like, I'm hoping to do an East Coast tour, like sort of from where I am all the way down south to Miami, and get New York in, and get a couple other places in on the way down to Miami. But it's all going to be injury dependent, like. Like I said, if my arm's not looking so great, I might just have to put a pause on it and come back and do the world tour next year. But we'll wait and see. Yeah,
some things are outside of our hands.
Yeah, totally. But like, there's no disasters ever. It's just about timelines, and that's the only thing. Like, in the big picture, it's I haven't had that much time off since I started, so I'm feeling very lucky about that. And I know that everybody goes through injury, and we've all been there. But for me, like, of course, the timing's just a bit crap because I'm trying to do the dream year, but I'm not too distressed about it. It just might have to be put on hold. I just don't know yet, though. Yes, but if you see me floating around, if I'm back on the mats and I'm floating around your part of the country, definitely say hi and roll with me. That'd be cool.
That's great. And I need to ask you now, because I don't want to forget, if somebody wants to join Australian Girls and Gis, I'm guessing they need to be a girl in Australia, but how do they find you to do this?
Yeah, cool. Okay, so about Australian Girls in Gi, we have a website which is just australiangirlsingi.com. There's a page on there about how you can get involved. So if you forget what I'm saying now, it's easiest just to go to the website. Basically, there's two streams of getting involved with Australian Girls in Gi. There's the closed group forum that we really do ask it to be female only. You don't necessarily have to be in Australia. We do have like internationals in there, no worries, but we ask you to be sort of involved somehow with the scene or keen to offer Australian girls a place to stay if they come through America or wherever. So somehow involved, so it's not just spammy newsfeed stuff for you. So it's really like you're participating in the group conversation, so that's what Australian Girls in Gi, the forum is. So it's a closed group on Facebook, and for those people using Facebook, you'll understand what I'm talking about is you just ask to be a member. What I do is I screen everybody because we get some undesirables in there purely because of the search. Like the start is like Australian girls, so a lot of people, search those two words, and we're not quite the demographic that they're after. But so I screen everybody and I send them the terms and conditions of the group. So basically the terms and conditions are essentially, this is a safe space where we don't defame anybody, and we respect the fact that all gyms and all ages and all experience levels are represented in the group. And for the group to stay healthy and safe, we need to speak anonymously in a couple of different ways. We can't just use the group as pure marketing or anything. It's just not for that. It's about a community group supporting each other. So the girls or the guys. So there are guys in the group, but the only men that we are welcoming into the group are people that either run a gym or, say, are a coach or are the kids coach or whatever, a male that can pass on information that otherwise wouldn't get to their female members. So there really are in there, but they're sort of silent witness. They're asked to be there just to gather information and to respect the girls' privacy and to understand that the women are really looking to other females for answers and leadership in the group, and that it's quite important that they do that they sort of just bear witness. So, So basically, long story short, if you ask to join as a member of the forum, I'll see your name pop up and I'll send you the terms and conditions, and you'll see whether that's right for you or not. And then as a way of kind of screening, we just ask you to tell us your belt, who you train under, and the gym that you train at. So if there's any problems, we can actually kind of track people back and make sure that they're accountable, or maybe contact the coach and say this person's having trouble or whatever it is. So it's a very safe and moderated group. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to just hit like on our Facebook page. So that's Australian Girls in Gi, and it's just a relatively easy Facebook page to find. And we post our public news on that stuff. So the stuff that isn't so much about discussing about how hard training is, or that they're having problems with different training partners or social aspects or whatever, that's for the closed group forum. But the public page is news about girls getting promoted, events coming up, all the stuff that's kind of, that we're happy for the public to know about. So that page, could do with support, because then obviously we can help promote things, and that helps get sponsorships and things like that. So, they're the two streams of getting involved with Australian Girls in Gi, or they can just contact me directly. I'm on Facebook and on Instagram as Brown Belt Jess, and pretty easy to contact, and I can point them in the right direction.
All right, sounds good, and I'll put links to all that in the show notes. And you might have to get a new Instagram account sometime. I mean, or change the name of it somehow.
I know, right?
You're kind of locked into that, aren't you?
It's
kind of funny.
Yeah, it's short-sighted. I just figured I'd be a brown belt forever, and other brown belts will understand what I mean by that.
Oh, that's funny.
But I am, my nickname when I'm training is Purple, so it'll just get more complicated as we go.
Oh, that's funny. In any community, I look at the jiu-jitsu community as a whole, and there's always a set of questions that pop up. Do I need to lose weight before I start training, or how do I get a gi, or what do I do in this situation, or what are the social norms? What are the questions that the newer girls tend to ask the most or struggle with? How do you help? What's the common things that you help people with?
Most commonly, it depends on the time of the year, weirdly enough. So most commonly we're answering questions about, is this okay? So I guess I get sent quite a few personal messages asking if I can post things anonymously because it's a service I provide, so the girls it doesn't have to be obviously from them when the group starts discussing a topic. And, like more often than not, I'm dealing with people that are asking questions about the gym culture. Is it all right that I've been asked to do X, and I don't mean X like the guard. I mean X as in like whatever thing. So like, is it okay that I've been asked to teach the kids classes and I don't feel like I'm ready? Or is it okay that I don't want to compete yet? Or is it okay that my coach doesn't think I'm ready to compete and I want to compete? Things like that. So basically, as an overall, the women are asking, the really, really new women are asking if it's okay to have permission to have the response that they're having. And they just want to feel validated in that way. And sometimes, the more experienced women will say, yeah, no, I don't think you should be behaving like that, or that one thing shouldn't annoy you so much. Sometimes the women, will come back and say, yeah, that sounds pretty dodgy and shouldn't be happening for you. So it really is about validation, and feeling that they're normal or that their response or their fears are justified, and that in that way, the group really does form support because it's a big discussion, and then they're like if you're, say, a 38-year-old mother of three and this is your first athletic pursuit and you're in this gym and you've already overcome all of these things that, like, are pretty intimidating. Like, it's a bit of a boys' club and all the guys look young and fit and, you've overcome all these things and you've finally found a gi that might actually sort of fit, which is pretty rare as a female, and you're on the mats and someone says something to you that actually distresses you. Like, who do you take that information to and really, like, nut it out with if you're not feeling confident that there is a friend or a kind of colleague or whatever on the mats? Like, this is what Australian Girls in Gi does best. Very respectful of the gyms, and we never say, oh, you should leave that gym, or, that guy sounds like he's shit or whatever. It's not that sort of stuff. It's more about the women feeling like they're heard. Yeah. Sorry, does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that's happening there. Most of the people in the group are wanting to know, is it okay if this is happening? And they're trying to get a feel for, is this an unusual situation that I'm in, or is this a normal thing? But really, does it may or may not matter if it's common or even if it's okay. It probably matters more if you're comfortable with it, or if it's something that you don't want to do on a personal level. And maybe it's easier to be comfortable with something if that's just the way that it is. Like
and to just situation. Be able to have someone to check in. This sport can be really uncomfortable, like physically, emotionally, mentally. Like, it can be really uncomfortable. It's totally crazy rewarding, of course, and like for me, it's the best thing I've done with my life. It also, though, it's worth checking in if something like, we all know that experience of, I hate this. Like, you're doing like reps of something and it's just not fun, or it's not working for you or whatever. There's that, but we learn to accept that this is just part of the process. It sort of sucks right now, but it's going to pay off later on, Like, you do a million, like, double leg entries and it's hard on your body and, you've never pulled one off in training and just keep getting guillotined, this sort of stuff. But you trust the process. And I guess it's easier to trust the physical side of the process earlier than it is all the cultural and social side of things. And where I feel like women do check in with us, and that seems to be the general theme, like, or checking in, hey, like, what happens at your club for gradings, and like items like that are really brought up very often. And when I say, it depends what time of the year it is with the questions, always at the end of the year with all the belt ceremonies going out, because it tends to be a tradition at the end of the year in Australia. Like December's really like grading season before everyone goes on holidays for Christmas and everything. The girls are often asking about how other people get graded and what should be expected of them, this sort of stuff. And I think it's important that the group does answer, hey, look, it's going to be completely different for you and it's going to be completely different for every gym. And like it's important that these women know that there's no standard, like actually like, you know, certain standard when it comes to grading. And then they realize like, okay, cool. Like I look around my gym and different people are getting graded at different paces, and that's frustrating to me. But I've asked the girls nationally, and it seems to be a national kind of theme that there isn't like an absolute standard. So that's kind of reassuring, even though they haven't been told a specific answer. They just get the feedback that there's a lot going on, and it doesn't have to be exactly a certain way for it to be right.
Jess, you've got this great organization where you're able to help people, and the most common question is it okay that, and then, you know, X or blank. Can you remember a time for yourself personally, probably when you were fairly new at this, where you were wondering the same thing, and maybe tell us a story about that, and then how you overcame it or figured it out?
Yeah, well, so for me, I have been at a different gym for each of my belts, which for some people is really confronting. They really dislike that idea or have, I don't know, see it as disrespectful. I don't know. But it is my experience, and it's what I needed to do. I think that I would have done things regardless of the gym or anything that had happened or hadn't happened or whatever. I think that I would have done my journey exactly the same way. I like the idea of being a bit of a bowerbird. I really do like to train at different gyms and have different insights, and it's just always that's been me as a human before I even came to jiu-jitsu, and that's continued in my journey of jiu-jitsu. And I guess for me, the first time I left a gym was a huge unknown. It was terrifying. I felt like my world was going to end, and I felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to about that had done the same thing, because there was this kind of labeling of, like calling people bad names or thinking that they were disloyal because they leave. And, you know, there's so many different reasons why people leave a gym for whatever reason, you know, like, and it seemed to be the only acceptable thing would be change of location. That's what I sort of came across, is like the only thing that people would find like, oh, okay, that's fine, you know, and be no like political kind of response to it, or like, you know, no bitching is like the actual word for politics, I believe. But like no response to it, negative or positive, is if you change locations. Now for me, I needed to change gyms. It just wasn't working for me, you know. Like I chose my first gym basically based on proximity, and it was kind of the first one that I'd seen, and I didn't really research it. I didn't research anything. I just saw jiu-jitsu and I wanted to try it. And after just under a year, I decided it wasn't for me, and that's cool. That's my decision, you know. Like, but I didn't really have anyone that I could talk to about that, and I didn't know whether it was all right, and I didn't know. I didn't know what people's responses would be, because they generally seem negative when people left, you know. And it's kind of that tribe, you know, pack mentality of staying like close and true to each other, I guess. I don't know. But I feel like I would have loved to have been able to reach out to other people that had maybe gone through something like that when I did, because it was terrifying. And, you know, obviously it was totally fine. Did it. It was fantastic, and it wasn't the last time I did it, and I'm totally fine, and leaving gyms is fine. If you want to stay at one gym the whole time that you're at it, no dramas. Like, that's cool. That's your journey. But if that's not possible for you, that's also your journey, and it's cool too. You know, like, harder if you're remote and that's the only gym available to you. But there is also ways to work around that. So yes, I would have loved for Australian Girls and Gi in those times when that hadn't had been my experience yet.
If you were to advise somebody who was wanting to move gyms or change gyms, what would be the easiest way for them to do that without making a big deal about things?
I don't know whether it is easy, because it is a big decision for most people. But communication is key, you know. Like, if we're learning how to communicate well via what we learn on the mats. I sort of feel like we're point, like I really feel like jiu-jitsu is a conversation, and if the person's yelling, the other one, isn't going to get heard, and your jiu-jitsu style can be like that as well. Like, so the more that you learn about hearing the other person's saying and options be giving you, and sort of stuff like physically, the more that you can learn from your jiu-jitsu and take into your life, the better. And I really think that a good jiu-jitsu athlete, a good practitioner, learns to communicate really well. And really, like, it's sort of a bit like competition fear and just doing it anyway and just trusting yourself and trusting the other person and trusting what you know. It's a little bit like that in going in to approach a coach that you may have had a really, really close relationship with over a couple of years or a couple of months or whatever it is. Like, I really just think you need to go communicate with them, because sometimes you're going to leave for positive reasons and it's seems all fine, yes, comparatively. Sometimes you're going to leave for negative reasons. Who knows? But it's all about that communication. If you're not clear with your communication, it is going to be very difficult for one or both of you. I know it is, and that's just for any human interaction or any big decision that you make. I think that you need to talk to the coach first, very definitely. Coach before everybody else. That's the fairest thing to do. And if you're finding yourself talking to other people other than the coach, I sit and reflect on that. Sure, if you're going to get advice or insight, but like I've seen people sort of make this decision to go and not conduct themselves in the best ways, like maybe trying to influence other people to go with them or whatever, and that's a strange behaviour. I don't really understand that one, but like I really think that it's about like your journey and just being really clear with your coach and what your goals are, and they might have suggestions for you that are helpful, like, or they I don't know, that I would appreciate it if I was your coach and you'd been with me for a couple of years. I'd appreciate the conversation, like, absolutely.
Yeah, and it basically is boiling down to good communication. And in the conversation may not go real well. Some people are going to take it up better than others, but you're trying to have that dialogue, and I'm looking at other things, off the mat, at work or in your personal life or with your family or other things. The same thing, the good communication could save you a lot of pain and heartache in the long run. You could leave your job and your coworkers would be upset with you. Why they just left, but you had a legitimate reason, or you had dreams you wanted to pursue in other areas. And just communicating that could really help, everybody understand what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can communicate clearly and honestly, if you really do have to leave for whatever reason, it's be better off for that later on. Like later on, when you're thinking back and you look upon that time that you're with, coach or whatever team, it allows you that kind of freedom of like, I'm really honest with people and I conducted myself well and I did everything I could, and, whether their response is positive or negative is up to them. It's totally up to them, so it's about your journey. This is such a long journey, this sport. It really is for life. They say jiu-jitsu life, but I think it's just, it's more just jiu-jitsu life. You want it to be with you forever, and it's important that you honour your own journey and you conduct yourself really well and in ways that you can be really proud of later on, and look back with good grace. It's no fun looking back and thinking, oh shit, that dude hates me. You don't want that. So yeah, you want to treat them well in it, I think.
Yeah. And I agree. That's perfect, and allowing them to save face if need be, and to just communicate the reasons, so maybe they could run a more effective school in the long run. Jess, I've had a lot of fun talking with you today. How can somebody keep up with you and with your travels and your competition and what you're up to?
So Australian Girls in Gi is the easiest way to do that, and then you can find me via that. So easiest way to find me is Brown Belt Jess on Instagram, and I'm Jess Fraser on Facebook, and pretty easy to find me. You'll see us in all the crazy group photos. We're pretty well known for those.
Excellent. I'll put links to those in all the show notes there. All right, well, Jess, thank you for hopping on here with me and sharing what you're up to and sharing some knowledge with us.
Thank you, and I'll just listen to the podcast and I'll hear when it's coming up next, no doubt.
Thank you, Jess, for the interview. It was a lot of fun talking with you and learning from you. It's always fun to get people who are active in the community and also competitors at that level. It's really neat to see somebody doing that.
Yeah, I mean, anybody you invited to the ADCC 3 times and medals twice, just an incredible competitor. And like, we talked about in the article or the interview and before the show, just giving back to the community, being the founder of the Australian Girls in Gi, really bringing a lot of people to jiu-jitsu and getting a lot of people hooked on the sport and, changing people's lives.
Yep, help building that social network of women in Australia there. Speaking of like a social network, Gary, we can be found on social media. We've got a Facebook page, Twitter account, and more recently actively engaged in our YouTube channel. So check us out on those locations or anywhere else you might think we would be. We'll probably be there.
Yep, and definitely go on to the interwebs and go to iTunes, write us a review. Let us know how we're doing. And if you make it funny, we will send you a free BJJ Brick Gi patch if you live in the U.S. Send us an email at bjjbrick@gmail.com or message us on our Facebook page. Let us know that was you, because otherwise we have no clue who it was that sent us. So let us know. Give us your address, and we'll get you one out in the mail.
Yep, it's pretty easy to get a BJJ Brick Gi patch if you live in the United States.
I mean, actually, I think it might be easy for somebody in a certain part outside the United States to get a gi patch here in the coming days.
That's true. Gary, we'll get to that in a few minutes. The music is telling me that it is time to talk about your audiobook that you've been working on this week.
Oh, not that time again.
That time
wonder
again.
What we got going this time.
Well, this is the part of the show when Gary is kind of put on his feet a little bit here instead of being on the mat.
Major.
Yeah. But he's going to be thrown a book topic or title, and he's got to tell us what he's working on that book, and he's got no idea what this is about. So it's always kind of fun to watch him squirm and find a way to make an audio book or a real book sometimes. He's even made pop-up books this way. He's always struggling to find a publisher, but that's part of the game.
But I think, being on this show so many times and talking about it, sooner or later I'll get a publisher.
Yep, just hanging in there, Gary.
The publisher I got was Publishers Clearinghouse. Came to my door one day, and I thought they were coming here to publish one of my books, but they were trying to get me to win some money.
Oh, did you win the money?
No, I threw them out.
Oh, well, it's not. You're not going to win money that way. I guarantee you that.
But I have a sign that says no solicitors.
Oh, well, I send them. I'll keep sending them that way. You're a sucker for solicitors. Let's get on to your book here, Gary, because this is going to be a good one. The whole fish,
what do we got?
The whole fish climbing a tree got me thinking about fish, and now I'd really like to see you make a book called "Drowned a Shark: The BJJ Way." And I don't know how you would do this, but if there's one man with the experience, the pedigree, and the time in the water and time on the mat to do this, it's probably Gary.
Well, somebody once told me that the world is my ocean. I am a shark, and most people do not know how to swim. So, we're talking about drowning a shark. And I tell you, the world is my ocean. What I got to do is I got to force that shark. I got to change his direction. I got to get him out of the ocean. I'm going to get that shark up on the sand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use myself as bait. I'm going to get out in that ocean. I'm going to start wiggling around and, throw some ketchup so he thinks it's blood. He's going to come after me, and I'm going to drag that guy right up onto the sand. Then he's in my world. I think my jiu-jitsu will come in handy there. I think I'll win.
I do know the move you used to get that shark from the water to the land.
The jitterbug?
No, the shrimp crawl.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
I've seen you do it many times.
Yeah, yep.
And sometimes you use
crawl.
cocktail sauce instead of ketchup.
Well, if I'm going to use the shrimp crawl, cocktail sauce would be the best option.
It's a little known fact that sharks do like the shrimp still dipped in cocktail sauce, Gary.
Yeah, but I hope... Cut. But, I really think this is going to be a great audiobook for everybody. I mean, especially people on the coast or anywhere near water where, well, not all water because you're not going to have to worry about sharks in a pond or a creek. But you're going to have to worry about sharks if you're in the ocean or a sea. So it's going to be very beneficial. And the thing is, you got to get that shark into unfamiliar territory. So you want to direct them. And that goes back to the article of the week, so you might want to check that out before you're going to go to the ocean. But you're going to force them into your world.
Yeah, Jerry. Gary, I've heard. I think I called you Jerry.
Well, Gary, it's all the same.
Gary, I've heard that sharks have a real sensitive nose. I guess kind of like myself. But if a shark's attacking you, you can actually just punch it right in the nose, and the whole thing will back up.
I think if I get it on the cement or on the sand, which I know I don't think I'm going to go punch it in the nose. I'm going to go for a pile driver. When he's coming up, that shark coming up onto the beach, I'm just going to stick his head, get him in a pile driver position, jump up in the air like Bruiser Bob Sweetan, and he's going to land, all his weight and my weight square on his nose, which is going to be a lot more powerful than punching him in the nose.
Wow, that's very graphic, it sounds like, Gary.
Well, I learned that when I was a kid watching wrestling on TV, from Bruiser Bob Sweetan.
There we go. See, the lessons you learn as a kid, they stick with you throughout your entire life. So,
Yep. So that's a shout out to Bruiser Bob Sweetan. I hope he's listening.
I know he is, Gary, and he's probably wrestling a shark right now.
Who isn't?
Well, I isn't.
Okay.
I'm not that crazy, my friend.
Well, just remember, if you ever do, force it into your world.
Okay. Gary, speaking of maybe me being a little bit crazy here, we've got a little side project going on that will maybe wrap up with me doing something kind of crazy.
You going to jump over the Grand Canyon in a car?
Well, while wearing my gi, I think I'd be all right, Gary.
Well, remember, we talked about us humans, we can't fly.
Okay, yeah. You've reminded me several times about that, and it's saved me a couple times, so that's good. No,
what are friends for?
That and choking me out sometimes.
Yep, and speaking of choking it out, tell us what your crazy thing you're going to do is.
Well, we've had this audiobook, and it's been a great way that we've been able to help people who are new to jiu-jitsu kind of stick with it their first year, and also make a couple of bucks a few times a week, basically, to help keep the cost of the podcast like maybe breaking even. Well, we're hoping to get this show add a little bit more fuel to the fire and be able to do some more things, so to speak, quite literally. In a minute here, Gary will be adding fuel to my face. But so the plan is there's this website called Patreon, Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. And basically, it's for people that want to support content producers, whether they're artists or podcast producers. Maybe they make videos or basically anything content related. They get support from their audience or their listeners or whoever they have. And we've got things set up where you could pledge a certain amount of money per episode. And I've got a video on there that it kind of explains everything. And not like a crazy amount, but we'll have different rewards for each level that people pledge, and it's going to help take this show, give the show an actual budget instead of scraping by on not costing me a bunch of money to make. So once we have a budget, we're hoping to do some pretty cool things. That's kind of wraps it up on that, Gary. It's called patreon.com, and look for BJJ Brick, or check the show notes for the thing there. And I've got a nice little video explaining all the details about what we're planning to do there. And ultimately, when we reach our goal, I'm going to be getting pepper sprayed and grappling.
That is going to be crazy. Pepper spray and grappling. You're not going to be able to see. You're going to be in pain. And the bad part is I'm probably going to be the guy grappling you. So I'm going to also get the runoff of the pepper spray and be in the same situation.
Yeah, I've ran this idea by my wife, and she says that no one's going to grapple you. So I kind of got Gary saying that he'll do it. But it'll be interesting to see if we get a couple different belt levels to grapple. Maybe in a black belt, will I get destroyed by the white belt, or will I be able to hang in there a little bit? Will the blue belt choke me out within a few seconds? What's going to happen? I don't know, and I really don't know the amount of pain I'll be in. But I hear it's quite severe. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, quite severe, and you can't see. So two strikes against you.
But the good thing is, I'm kind of resting a little easy here. We've got a goal we have to reach before we get to that point, and I don't know if we'll hit that goal, in a few months or a few years. So,
well, what I would do is, if you start getting closer to the goal, start preparing yourself. Like I would spray myself like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is my advice to you, but just spray yourself terrible. Like 3 times a day. Well, I'd start out once a day, then work up to twice. And, like people train 3 times a day for tournaments sometimes. So I think a good idea would be, as we get closer to hitting that goal, you start spraying yourself 3 times a day. And that way you'll get better at it.
Yeah, and so if you're grappling me, Gary, you probably should spray yourself as well, just to kind of get ready to be able to perform well with it. My plan was I eat more hot Thai food, and that might help me out.
Yeah, that would work too. Well, I don't know about eating it, but putting it in your eyes would probably work better.
Oh, this sounds terrible, Gary.
I tell you, I did this one time. I was eating pizza, and I went to put the hot peppers on it, hot red peppers, and I guess I had some on my hand, and I went to rub my eyes, and I put those hot peppers in my eyes, and I remember that was brutal. That
sounds brutal. And then, of course, you have to go to the restroom, and that's also brutal. So,
especially in a restaurant.
So this is going to be brutal, Gary, if we reach our goal. But I'm looking forward to it because it would mean that we could do some really cool things with the show and with the website and really take it to the next level and have more fun. So,
yep, that's the key. Take it to the next level. And it's a great way to show your support for the show, and we appreciate all the support you guys give us all the time.
Yep, and we'll be check out the website there on Patreon and learn about the different goals the goal we have and the different levels of support we could have. At any level, we're tremendously thankful. It's amazing that people would support us in this, and maybe see myself get pepper sprayed and beat up on. So kind of looking forward to that a little bit.
That's what I'm definitely looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous of it. Now that's actually out there. It's been up on this website for a little while, but we haven't promoted it or talked about it much. So now that it's up there, I can't really take it back, Gary.
Yep, I think Byron has had it up there, but hasn't wanted to talk about it because he's scared. But to be honest, I don't blame you.
I am. Yeah, we'll see what happens when the day comes. But I'm not. If we reach our goal, I can't chicken out, Gary. I owe it to the listeners and all the Patreon people out there.
Yep, you have to do it. Yeah, I mean it's on the internet, so anything that's on the internet's true. So you have to.
I have to.
Yep. And we promise, if you happen to be traveling through Wichita, Kansas, and drop us a note and come train with us, we promise there will be no pepper spray involved. So if you do come out this way, let us know. We'd love to train with you.
Yep. That's always a good time. And what if, Gary, I'm traveling around and I happen to want to go to Brazil? What could I do?
That's the best part. One of our friends and training partners, Claudio, is actually from Brazil. So he has been helping us out, as you've probably seen in the last couple episodes. And this week he's going to teach us a couple more words. Basically, he's going to teach us how to say ambulance, which, who knows? We're grappling. We'll probably need it. Police, doctor, taxi. I mean, that's a word you definitely need to know. Hotel. We're probably staying in a hotel. My favorite thing is eating, and I like to go to restaurants. So he's going to tell us about restaurants. And we already talked about this one earlier, the restroom. So some really important words you need to know. So check out our buddy Claudio.
Oi, Claudio. Tudo bem?
Oi, Brian. Tudo bem. E você?
Let me think about how to say good.
No. Tudo bem. Just answer. Tudo bem.
Tudo bem.
Very good.
I'm getting worse, Claudio.
Perfect.
Just say it back. I wanted to say good, which was boom, right?
Bom,
Or
right.
muito bom. Right. Very good.
Muito Very good.
So.
Excellent. Você fala inglês?
No.
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 Good.
Yes, I do speak English. That's what I should say. Sim. I should just flat out say, yes, I do.
Yes, I do. Can we speak English here, please?
No. Okay, so you asked me if I speak English. Vous si fala inglés. And then the correct answer for me would be sim, which would be yes. Those are from the past couple of weeks. This has been a good recap here. We've covered a lot of our past segments here. I want to get some words that might, hopefully won't need to pop up that much. Words like ambulance, police, doctor, and those type of things. It would be good to know, but hopefully you don't need them.
Good. Very good. Yeah, that's very important. You never know. We had a friend of ours, Dusty Grant. I think he cut his toe or something like that, or his fingers. I can't remember. I think it was his finger in Brazil traveling. So they had to find a doctor there to help him out. So it's very, very important that we know some of the basic words. Let's start with the ambulance, okay? That's the very first one. It's similar to the way we spell it, ambulance, but we say it a little bit different, of course. It's ambulancia.
Ambulancia.
Ambulancia, yeah. Think about, I can relate to it. Ambulancia. Well, ambulance. That's very close. You just tweak the words a little bit here. Ambulancia. And spells AMBULANCIA. So it changes a little bit at the end there.
Ambulancia.
Perfect. The second one will be police. Hopefully you won't be involved with police, but if you need to know, or if you need to call them for some reason, you can call policia.
Policia.
And spells POLICIM. CIA. Sorry.
Policia.
So changes a little bit from the English there too, the way we spell. Second one, we're talking about doctors and all that, and doctor would be magical. So MEDICO, magical. And magical. That's right. Kind of like you're measuring something. I don't know. That's how I can think. Magical.
Is the O pronounced? Medico?
Magical. Yes.
Okay.
It's almost you almost say like a U would be in Portuguese, a U at the end. So magical. Yeah, not a magical. Magical.
Kind of like a medic.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Medic. Yeah.
Okay. How about if I need to get a taxi? If I'm looking for, if I go to somebody at the front desk or somewhere and I just say taxi, I need some help here. I need to get back to my hotel. How would I say taxi?
That's a very hard word, man. It's exactly the same.
Taxi. Okay, good.
It's taxi. You say a taxi.
Is this is important but a little different? Is a taxi a good way to get around in most of Brazil or where you're from?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. They have plenty of those, and public transportation it's everywhere too. Buses and subways and trains. It's very, very popular. If you ever been to Rio or São Paulo, you will see that the traffic is awful. So a lot of people try the alternate. They go by motorcycles, or they just take the bus or subway or something like that. So yeah, and taxis are one of the main methods of transportation there, and I use it when I'm traveling there too, or going to visit my family. Instead of renting a car or something, I use a taxi. It's very safe, and it's not that expensive either. So taxi will be the word. It spells exactly the same as taxi, but you just pronounce a little bit different. Taxi. Mm-hmm.
And how would if I see a taxi, do you wave at them? Do you...
You wave, you stretch your hand, wave.
Okay. Because it's...
Jump in front of them, whatever it takes, just make them stop, yes. And it's basically the same. I think they have a little light that shows that they're available, or if it's off, if they're not available, or I guess if they don't stop, they're not available.
There you go.
Yes, it's basically the same as here.
Okay. And once I get in the taxi, I want to go to let's say I want to go to my hotel. How would I say that?
Hotel also spells the same as English, but you just say hotel. You just don't pronounce the H as a, like hotel. You just say hotel.
Okay, hotel.
Yeah, hotel.
I like that one. That's easy.
You almost drop that H out. Hotel.
Is that common to drop the H, or to?
It depends on the word. Yeah,
okay.
It is. If it's it depends. It's a Portuguese word. Yes, they're translating. They're dropping the H
because the R is pronounced as an H. So when
some yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How about if I want get in my taxi and I want to go to a restaurant?
Sure. You're hungry. Been training all day. Of course, you want to eat some churrasco. Yeah. You ask for restaurante.
Restaurante.
So restaurant. Yeah. It spells basically the same. The only thing you add is E at the very end. So RESTAURANTE. So restaurante.
So both, there's an R at the front of the word and an R towards the end, and they're both pronounced with that H. Restaurante. Restaurante.
Mm-hmm. The restaurante.
Restaurante.
Very, very good. Very good.
Very good attempt. Very good. Okay.
Very good attempt.
Now, this is something that you could ask one word, go to a front desk, and get somebody to point in the right direction. A restroom.
Mm-hmm. Restroom. Yeah. The restroom will be banheiro.
Banheiro.
Banheiro. It's BANHEIRO. Banheiro. So that
banheiro
there in the middle, it's like a nya.
Banheiro.
Weird little. Mm-hmm.
Am I close?
Yes, banheiro.
Banheiro.
Yeah.
And if you kind of dance around and act like you need to go pee real bad, they might get the clue.
Yeah, they'll point you in the right direction. That's for sure. Once again, like we spoke before, hand gestures and body language will help a lot.
There we go. Okay, these are all great things to be able to say. One word can often get a message across. Ambulancia. Close.
Ambulancia.
Ambulancia. And the police was policia.
Police. Very good.
Okay, and doctor was medico.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Medico. Taxi. My favorite one is taxi. Hotel. We're dropping the H. Hotel.
Hotel.
Yeah. What else do we have? Restaurant. Restaurante. And then restroom, which seemed to be a little bit tougher for me. Panhero.
Banheiro with the B.
Oh, with the B.
Banheiro.
Banheiro.
Very good.
Banheiro.
Yeah.
Okay. These are valuable words to know when you're heading into a place where you don't speak the language. So.
Very true.
All right. Well, this is good. Thank you, Claudio.
You're welcome.
We'll catch you next week. There we go. Muy obrigado. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado. Yeah, de nada.
All right. We'll catch you next week, my friend.
See you next week. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Claudio, for that lesson. As we've said before, all the lessons have been piled up together and scooped off to the side on YouTube, and they're all in one big clip there. If you're actually going to Brazil or want to study all these more in depth, check out that video. We'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Yep. Or if you're already in Brazil and can't figure out how to get to a restaurant or a taxi, or you're just totally lost, go check out our YouTube channel. Check out Claudio.
Yeah,
he will save you.
Yep. He will help you out, that's for sure. And he'll be back next week telling us how to say sorry, which is something that is just probably important to be polite, and also basic counting. So
the one thing we haven't had him teach us to say is tap. That might be a good idea.
Yeah, it's kind of universal, and it's more of a sign language, Gary, from my understanding.
Oh, okay. So then that's good.
I don't know.
Yeah, normally I tap on somebody, but sometimes somebody forced you into a different direction, and it is really, smashed you, and you can't even move your arms or your legs maybe, and you have to say tap.
That's true. There are a lot of different situations that can come up on the mat, and it seems like, Gary, sometimes you just scream out in pain, and they stop most of the time.
Yeah, but in some languages, some cultures, screaming out in pain means do it harder. Actually, I don't know if that's true or not, but that'd be terrible.
Yeah, that would be a disaster waiting to happen on the mats.
Yep.
At that location.
The only thing I could think that would be more of a disaster waiting to happen is if we reach our goal on Patreon and we get to watch Byron get sprayed with pepper spray.
Yeah, like I don't know if you said before, it will be filmed and it will be put up for all to enjoy the terrible beating I receive. So that's just a good part of it there, Gary.
Yep, so we can't wait for that.
So the day I get pepper sprayed, I'll be looking for some good friends to actually hit the mat with me. If you have a good friend that often hits the mat with you, we'd appreciate it if you'd let them know about the show. Maybe direct them towards one of your favorite episodes or just the website there. And the word of mouth spread of the BJJ Brick podcast has been really nice, and it's always an honor when somebody recommends the show to somebody else.
Yeah, that's the biggest honor we could get if you like the show that much and you tell one of your friends. But in all reality, in all seriousness, man, we really, really appreciate all you guys listening every week. And if you know anybody who wants to be on the show or you know anybody who has an article, send us an email, bjjbrick@gmail.com. Hit us up on our Facebook page, BJJ Brick, and let us know. And we would love to get some of your content out there, talk about your article or your blog, or if you got somebody who'd be great for an interview, we'd love to get them on the show.
Gary, before we let everybody go, we got to let them know about next week's show. We have Michael Jin on the podcast. He has a book that's out. It's called The Science of Submission. I've read the book. It's always nice when I can actually read the book before they come on, and I read the book before I interviewed him, and the way he breaks down certain positions and submissions, he does it in a way that it will apply across the board. Even if you don't do these submissions, which he broke down some really common ones, you're going to be able to think about it and then apply it to yourself. And so it's a very interesting book. He explains a lot of it in the interview, and we're excited to bring in Michael Jin to the show.
Definitely make sure you tune in next week to listen to our interview with Michael Jin, and don't forget we have another episode with our training partner and buddy, Claudio.
That's right, Gary. It's been a good show today. I think I struggled a little bit during the quote in the article, kind of like getting my thoughts before I would talk, but that's just part of the learning process. We're hopefully getting better and better every episode, so I hope to be better next week. But I'm glad I had Gary here drag me through this episode, Gary.
No wonder my leg hurt so bad. I thought it was from grappling today, but it's from dragging you through.
You pulled me across the finish line on this one, buddy, and we've made it.
Yep, teamwork. That's what it's all about.
As always, stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to shower.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Jess, you've... I said nothing there. Jess...
So definitely make sure you tune in next week. We're going to have an awesome show. Michael Jin, and then everybody's favorite. Definitely make sure you tune in next week. Michael Jin and man, I'm getting killed here.
It's been me getting killed all day, Gary, so that's okay. Yep, that's right, Gary. As always, I want you to God, there's going to be a lot of editing this damn thing.